Hello and welcome back to the channel. After a couple of months off for the winter and our downtime for the season, we're back to our racing. What I've got here is a little bit of a unique and first time experience for the channel. Today we'll be following my son James in his first recorded race, which took place in Odessa, Washington for the Stump Jumpers Desert 100 Junior class. He raced in the 11 to 12. I've really been looking forward to this video. I've thought about recording the kids in the past, but it's just never quite panned out. And this channel's been predominantly myself and my races and my adventures, but I do ride a lot with my children, and I was quite looking forward to starting this up, and this seemed like a great opportunity as it's a bit of a bigger race and it's one that we'd wanted to record for posterity. Now, James today is riding on a 2008 CRF 150R full-on race bike. It's been set up for enduro by myself and the previous owner, but it does quite well in scenarios like this. It does go like stink. Power to weight is actually pretty comparable to what I race on as an adult. Top speed's a little bit lower because of the gearing, but lest any of you think that he's riding a crippled bike or something that's just a little trail machine, it really isn't. That thing's terrifying to watch, and he does quite a good job of handling it. For really, this will only be his second year riding it. That being said, I believe it is his fifth year riding overall, so he's had some time to develop into these larger bikes. Now, James here isn't new to racing. He's done a couple of races out in Manitoba and the Manitoba Dirt Riders. Some experience with enduros and longer races north of an hour. This one in particular is about an hour long, although it was actually only about 8 or 9 degrees out, and it was kind of dripping rain. It wasn't great weather for the race, but it did tack down the desert a little bit, make it a little less dusty, and there was a little more traction available than would be otherwise. So I think it was well set up, albeit a little bit cold. For those of you that are new to the channel or new to dirt biking or just coming and checking on James for his little video here, the Desert 100 is the biggest dirt bike race in the United States and the second biggest in North America. At the beginning of every racing season, about 20 to 25,000 people descend onto a little farmer's field outside Odessa, Washington, which is about an hour and a half southwest of Spokane. And it's just a weekend of dirt bikes and carnage. Great time. The kids class here, I believe, in James' class alone, there was about 55, 56 riders, I believe, and there had to be several hundred across all of the kids' classes. In his race alone, I'd wager there was probably 100 to 140 riders out there as they raced the 9, 10, 11, 12s all together at the same time. Now, it's funny watching your kids for the first time as you see it through their eyes and hear their voices talking while they ride, as we all kind of talk to each other, or talk to ourselves a little bit as we ride. It's interesting to see that his development over the years. I often get to see and watch him from behind, but I very rarely get to see it through his eyes. And I see, particularly, I never get to ride with him in races, so it's interesting to see how well his skills developed over the years. He's able to deal with getting around people that he's quite tight to, arguably even better than I am. I've always been pretty timid with passing people. I wait for more open opportunities, but James has got quite a good racer's mind in there, and he's able to squeeze by people when he needs to, but still do it in a gentlemanly way, and that's something quite proud of in his video here. After the last checkpoint in each lap, they came through this little section with all the adults lined up on the side. Now, the gap between the adults only about 8 or 9 feet, but all these kids would come ripping through in third and fourth gear, tapped out, just skipping through the little whoops. It was quite entertaining to watch, just reminiscent of the Baja setups, although quite a few less booby traps laid out on the course. Now, while the kids' track is off to the side of the main track, or the main course is set up for the adults, it's a little safer area, although it still has its own little challenges. It's not quite as rocky or as jagged as the adult course, maybe a little better defined, fewer side trails to get stuck on. It's still tough in its own right, particularly for the kids as they try to meet them at their level, although you'd be hesitant to say that it was an easy course. It was well laid out and quite a fun layout for the kids. Every one of them came off with smiles. Right after James was done, I picked him up at the finish line there, went and put my own gear on, and we went out and rode a poker run course that was set up for families. That took him a little bit more out into the main course, where he got to experience some more of the terrain that he'd be doing probably in the next couple of years there as he enters into the adult races. It was great to see him out there. He really powered his way through. You could tell probably middle of the day that he was getting pretty tired, but really he'd been riding pretty hard for probably 4 or 5 hours at that point, and he ate it into the rocks a couple of times, but full marks to him. He bounced right back up as best he could, and he kept going, no qualms about it, and showed that he's ready to be doing this kind of thing, and that we're quite proud to watch him develop into this persistent racer with a good heart and good drive to win. Getting involved with racing with the kids and as a family over the last couple of years, particularly through social media, we've taken, not us directly, but some people that we've ridden with have taken some flack over people seeing the kids involved in these kind of opportunities. You do see that the speeds end up pretty high, but the majority of parents take pretty good care of their kids when dealing with making sure that they're geared up and that they're trained appropriately. We watch them pretty carefully and help them with their skill development. But one great thing that we get through all of this is that to a kid, that there are no soft kids in this sport. They're not hard as nails. They're not going to go out there and just be nasty people. They're persistent, they're driven, and they know how to deal with difficulties when they encounter them. Every time they get knocked over and they have to start their bike up when they're exhausted or on a hill, it's just a real encouraging moment to see kids, not just your own, get up and deal with that. It's a tough sport, but one that pretty much everybody involved in it just at the end of the day walks away with a huge grin, and it's great to see that in the younger kids as they're coming up and learning about this and seeing their parents and their friends do the same thing. It's really a great sport for physical development and mental development for the kids. There was 2 moments during the course of this race that we did catch on video, but I didn't include them for a couple of different reasons. I tend not to show other kids crashing, as might be discouraging for them. It does happen frequently. It's a sport where you do take a lot of physical impact, but there were 2 opportunities. One where James helps a kid up, and another one where James is tipped over and a kid stops his race and helps James get up and get started again. The camaraderie in this sport is amazing. The vast majority of people are really there and helpful and looking out for each other, and that's great to see that even that when the parents aren't there watching, taking care of these kids, that these kids are cognizant enough of the circumstance that they're in and cognizant of how difficult it can be to pick yourself back up, that they stop, make sure that the other kids are okay. And that's just massively encouraging that these kids are figuring that out, and that so many of these kids are looking out for each other. It's just so encouraging to watch as an adult. I just wanted to thank you all for coming in and joining us for this unique opportunity. We had a great time being down in Odessa and a great time making this video, so I look forward to the upcoming ones. James finished, I believe, 22nd out of 56 in his class, which is great considering he's at the low end of his age spectrum. He's only 11 this year, and he's in the 11 and 12 class, so I think if he goes back next year that he'll be a handful for people to handle. There are a lot of great riders there, but I think James can certainly count himself among the best.